Thanks for joining us on the Carolina Justice Report. I'm Rainee Romero with the Lovely Law Firm, chatting with Justin Lovely and Sarah Austin. So today we're chatting all about boating accidents and how those are different from your normal car accidents. So, Justin, I'm going to start with you. You know, boating accidents, we have a lot of those because we live close to the water here. How are those kind of different than motorcycle or car accidents?
Yeah, so when people think of personal injury, of course, that's the first thing they think of is a car wreck, maybe a workers' comp case. But down here at the beach, down here near the intercoastal waterway, you know, people are coming on vacation. They're trying to have a good time, and there's a huge boating community, tons of boats, all from Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, up to Bird Island, all the way down Pawleys, going to Georgetown, even getting into Charleston. I mean,
Yeah,
people are riding
it
the
gets
waterway.
pretty packed on the water, that's for sure.
And spring break's coming. They're all coming down here, and then the summer is just, I mean, you can't get on the water without several boats. I mean, it's just crowded,
Yeah.
more so than it's ever been, especially during COVID, because everybody wants to be outdoors, they want to do something, be active again, and boating is a big issue. So, you know, with boating, just like a car, there's rules of the waterways, and there's things that happen, whether it's a wake, whether it's, operator error, whether it's drunk boating, alcohol involved, anything like that. There could be accidents on the waterway.
Right.
And these can be as minor as just whiplash, just like a car wreck, or it can be the worst case where they fall off the boat and drown.
Right.
So these are cases where there's a potential for a lawsuit, there's a potential for a recovery for the injured person, just like a car wreck in a personal injury case.
And there's a different set of rules depending on what body of water that you're on, right?
Right. So depending on the facts of the case, every case is going to be different. So depending on where you're at, are you inland in Carolina Forest in Plantation Lakes messing around with a pontoon? Are you in the waterway going up and down the intercoastal waterway? Are you way out in the ocean fishing, three miles out in international waters? Different rules will apply, whether that's going to be state law, whether that's going to be federal maritime law, and we're able to evaluate those based on your set of facts and see where we need to go with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I know for our area, with it being a very tourist attraction place, we have a lot of rentals with jet ski rentals, pontoon rentals, parasailing, all that good stuff. So those are all different rules as well, right?
Yeah, so the good news is if you're going to rent a jet ski and you're going to rent a pontoon, usually that's going to be a reputable company. So the good news is there's going to be an insurance policy if you're hurt.
True.
The bad news is we got all these vacationers. Some of them never even rode a jet ski before. They get 5 minutes of training and they turn them loose and say, hey, let's go on a jet ski tour. And what are they going to do? I mean, they start having fun and they start doing reckless, crazy stuff. They don't know any better because they're not trained to be a professional jet ski rider, or maybe they haven't driven a boat on these waters. So even if they know of boating, they don't know boating on the intercoastal waterway.
Right,
they don't know boating out in the ocean along the coast.
Makes sense.
So, and that's just a recipe for disaster. Okay. So,
and Sarah, I'll ask you this, something that I feel like I've had to learn since being with the law firm is, even if you are from another state, you still have to have kind of like the law firm from where it happened, right?
Right. And so if you're from, we get a lot of like northerners, so Ohio, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you come down here, you get into an accident in South Carolina, you need a South Carolina lawyer. You can't go home to your Pennsylvania lawyer. And unless they're licensed here, they can't represent you here.
Okay.
And they're not going to know the laws, especially for boats and what goes on around here. Sometimes it's just good to have that local knowledge about, the waterway. We've got bars up and down the waterway. And so that often plays a big part. People are getting drunk on the waterway, and we sort of know the rental places and the training that you get better than, an out-of-state attorney would know.
Yeah. I think that was something I had to learn. I don't know why in my head I thought that my attorney would be from where I live. I guess because I would be meeting with them face to face, So I didn't realize until I started working here that no, you need to have somebody from that area. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because jurisdiction is a key to any potential lawsuit.
Yeah.
So your jurisdiction would be where you were injured. So
yeah.
And that's why you would need a South Carolina lawyer, because the South Carolina laws are going to apply, and we know the ins and outs of our system here to get the maximize the settlement.
And how about with like parasailing? Because they sign waivers. How does all that work?
Yeah, so we've done several parasailing cases, and the issues that we look at are, is the ocean rough? Because a lot of times these people don't want to waste a day, so there might be, Coast Guard warnings. There's a 5-foot chop. Don't, small as craft advisory, don't go out there.
Yeah.
Well, if they have a tourist down here who wants to go parasailing, they might try to force the issue and hit it. Then there could be issues on the ride out, on the ride in, during the ride. A lot of times we also look into boat stalls, because when they're pulling the parasailing, what can happen? They can have engine failure. The boat stalls, well, what's going to happen? Your parachute's dropping. And we've had cases where they hit the water so hard it breaks bones. There's some cases that potentially could drown. So bad stuff. But yeah, they're going to try to make you sign a waiver, whether you're renting a jet ski or renting a pontoon going parasailing.
Yeah.
And, don't think that makes you not be able to have a case, because we would basically investigate the case. If we think it's something viable and worth pursuing, we try to crush that waiver and get it kicked out. And they can't waive away gross negligence in these kind of cases.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what we're able to prove through our investigation.
Parasailing can be, I don't know if you guys have ever done it, but it's pretty intense.
No,
It can be.
Yes.
You know?
It's fun, but after, hearing about what happens in boat stalling, it's so many things that you can't control.
Yeah.
And you think when you sign that waiver, you're just like, all right, it's going to be safe. These people know what they're doing, but that's not always the case. And even if you do know what you're doing, you can't control.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know even the takeoff and landing can be a little rough sometimes. So that's interesting. Now, how does it work with kind of the BUI, which is the same thing as a DUI, but for boating?
Yeah, so if a boat case comes in and we have a client who was injured on a boat, the first thing we're going to look at is operator error, and was the operator charged with a BUI by DNR? Okay, and a BUI is just like a DUI, except you're on a boat.
Right.
So, but DNR retains that jurisdiction, and they will do an investigation, determine if the operator of the vessel was under the influence. Okay, and we'll do just like the same testing, get a BAC, just like a DUI. And at that point in time, we know, hey, there's some punitive damage exposure here, because this person chose to operate a vessel while impaired. You can't do that.
Right.
Okay, so the DNR will prosecute the BUI. Okay, we try to get their evidence in their all their case files through a FOIA, and as a victim's advocate to help the civil case pursue against the boat owner, or if it's the parasailing operator, whoever that may be that's charged.
Are the alcohol levels different for boating versus driving?
No, it's just
like that?
it's exactly the same. But the people get that confused. They think you blew a 0.05 or a 0.04. It's, were you materially and appreciably impaired when you chose to operate that vessel on the waterway of South
And how can you
Carolina?
investigate that later?
Well, DNR's investigating it.
Gotcha.
We're going to get their investigative file.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, they're going to do it one at a time. We'll get our private investigators to go, and if they were on the waterway, like Sarah said, there's restaurants, there's homes who live on the waterway. They have surveillance on their docks.
Gotcha.
We will scour the whole waterway and try to put a timeline together. And that's
Right.
So we know exactly if they were drinking here, they drove this past this buoy, and then here's where the accident happened. If we can piece all that surveillance video together, we can prove the case.
Yeah, and DNR usually does a really good job of investigating. Their investigation, more than the DUIs, I think, includes a lot of pictures of the boat, stuff like that. So sometimes you get a picture of a boat that's just full of beer cans, and that
Right, so
these
it's
people were
obvious.
just out drinking all day. Or you get it and it's just like, oh, there's a couple beer cans here, but we know they stopped at the boathouse or wherever they stopped, and then you can get the video. And a lot of those homes along the waterway also have security footage,
Right,
so we can
right.
put it all together and then sort of figure out where they were. If they were overserved at one of those bars, then that's another insurance policy that
Yeah.
we'll investigate into, and that kind of stuff. But it starts with the DNR file.
Yeah.
And seeing if they were charged with anything at all, because that's a big one. But even if they weren't charged, you have witnesses, other passengers on the boat saying, no, he was drunk, we were drinking. And so that's oftentimes the case, especially on the waterway, because that's what you do on the waterway. You go out and you have a few drinks on the boat.
I get it. And then how do we differentiate between the operator and passenger claims?
Yeah, so during our investigation, we're going to say, who was hurt. If it was the guy operating the vehicle, or the vessel, and he's by himself, and he gets hit by another boat, or he runs aground, or something else happens. Maybe there was a wake from another boat that threw him off. We will investigate that. With those kind of cases, it's just like a car wreck. We have the driver of a motor vehicle. We're going to have to prove liability. So our guy's not at fault, and then go to damages. Okay, versus a passenger on a boat. Those are the best claims, because you could claim against the operator of the boat you're in, and also the entity that causes the boat accident, or whether that's a wake that throws you off, or if the operator of that boat is drunk, or another boat hits you, whatever that may be. So the passenger claims are the better claims.
Gotcha. Well, this is super interesting. Did not know any of that. So thank you both for for informing us on boating accidents.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna. We're anticipating this boating season is going to be bigger than it's ever been because
Oh yeah.
the economy is wide open again.
Yeah,
so
very true.
everybody
Numbers are already up.
Yeah.
Yep. Everybody's ready to get back out there.
So they're going to be down here. So we need to everybody needs to just be aware and know that if something happens to you, we're available.
Right. Do you have any tips for people if they, get in a boating accident?
Well, let's say this: if you're going to operate the boat, don't drink a drop. Do not, okay? Because again, you could be fine, and you're going to have all these idiots on jet skis just weaving in and out of you. I mean, I own a boat myself, and I know exactly what happens. I mean, when I'm on the boat, got to keep your life jacket on. Your kids, definitely make sure you have their life jackets on. That's by law anyway. But even if you think, hey, this is a quiet part of the waterway, next thing you know, you're going to have these jet skis flying by. You'll have big people who are operating. They could be operating under the influence and pulling a big boat with a big weight that can throw you off. And also remember that you don't know these waters. If you're coming from New York, if you're coming from Pennsylvania, coming from Ohio, you know those waters, but you don't know these waters.
Right.
Okay. And especially when you get down going south on the waterway, I mean, there's rocks sticking out, there's stumps sticking out, and that's what can cause them.
Yeah, that's great advice. And you also don't know where it's shallow and where it's deep,
Absolutely.
right?
And that's the worst part. So you got to be very, very diligent when you're operating a vessel.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for chatting about this and informing folks. Thank you guys for watching the Carolina Justice Report today. We are dropping new episodes every Tuesday at 2 p.m. You can also check out our podcast and visit us online at justiceslovely.com if you have any questions or if you have unfortunately been in a boating accident. You can also visit us on any social media platform, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We are everywhere. Thanks for watching today.
When life gets ugly, justice is love.